Thanks for joining me today. This is Danny and welcome back to my Botania series. Today we are going to be automating the Hydroangea flower in order to produce mana. So the Hydroangea is a flower that is a passive generation flower. So our endoflames are active mana generation flowers, meaning they need some kind of materials in order to produce mana. The Hydroangea just uses water, and you can place it by an infinite water supply and it will just create mana from that supply, and it will not consume the water because of course the water is infinite. However, there is a catch, and it's a pretty big catch, and that is that the Hydroangea decays over time. It will only last for about an hour, a real world hour. So what, 3 full Minecraft days, a few more if you sleep at night. The trick in automating the Hydroangea is being able to have Botania automatically produce more of them and plant them for you, and to get rid of the old flowers after they die. I'm going to clear away a little bit of space here, and then we're going to take a look at all the stuff that we're going to need. This is going to actually be, this is actually going to be one of the largest projects that we've done so far. It's going to be quite large as far as just the amount of stuff that it requires. In fact, I think it required even more stuff than our tree farm did. It's probably not more complicated than the tree farm, but it's just, there's just a lot to it. So I've got this purple shulker box that's filled with a bunch of ingredients that we're going to need for this. So of course we're going to need to make the Hydroangea. So down here in my inventory I've got the mystical blue flowers, the mystical cyan flowers. That's all it takes. They're actually pretty cheap flowers to make. It's just blue and cyan in a petal apothecary. So because we're putting this in a petal apothecary, we're also going to need the petal apothecary. We're going to need some water buckets, and we're going to need all kinds of automation to fill those buckets up with water and then drop them into the petal apothecary in order to fill it with water. We're also going to have like 2 towers of kind of like water towers where the Hydroangeas are going to be producing mana. We're going to use some coarse dirt along with a rain and carpus, and that is what we're going to be using to actually plant the flowers. We're also going to need a bunch of various redstone stuff, so repeaters, hoppers, droppers, a redstone comparator, a bunch of redstone dust, and a redstone torch. And then we're also going to need a couple of water buckets for a few different things. Of course, first of all, to create the infinite water supplies that the Hydroangeas are going to be drinking off of, and then also for our automation to keep the petal apothecary full of water. We're going to need a few different mana spreaders. So I'm using 2 elven mana spreaders. That's basically to pull the mana from the Hydroangeas and put them into a mana pool. We're also going to use, in this particular setup, we're going to be using a Gaia mana spreader. And that is just because it has a really large range and it's really fast, and we're going to be using that to shoot mana into our house, along with a phantom lens. So the phantom lens will allow the mana spreader to shoot mana through walls without any loss. So that's basically how we're going to get the mana into our main mana battery over here, which we're probably going to make bigger as part of this. And then we're also going to need a couple of hopper hawks along with a couple of item frames in order to filter the things that the hopper hawks pick up. That is going to be for our water automation. We're going to need just a bunch of structure blocks. I've chosen living wood bricks and living wood planks as structure blocks. A couple of mana pools. We're going to use a diluted mana pool along with a pulse mana spreader in order to pulse a drum of the wild. The drum of the wild we're going to be using to basically break the dead bushes once the Hydroangeas die. We're going to need a few sparks for our mana pools, a couple of open crates, 2 of them. We're going to need a hovering hourglass, that's basically going to be our redstone timer, and a couple of recessive sparks to go along with, a couple of recessive augments to go along with our sparks. And I think that covers everything. So let's get started. I did a little bit of terraforming here, so it's all nice and flat. I'm going to start by building the towers. So I'm going to put 1 tower over here, and these are going to be 6 by 6. The footprint is going to be 6 by 6 because we are going to have an infinite water supply in the center, a 2 by 2 infinite water supply. And I'm just going to surround that by, actually, you know what? Just going to put these on the bottom. And I'm going to surround it with these living wood planks. And then the Hydroangeas are going to be planted here. So they're going to end up at the same level as the water. We don't want to plant them up here. We want to plant them down there by the water. And of course, we don't want them to get hit by the water, so that's why we have these blocks here, because the water, like any other flower, will cause it to be, well, picked. So I'm going to grab some coarse dirt, and anywhere where we're going to want a Hydroangea planted, we're going to place some coarse dirt, because then we're going to tell the rain and carpus that we want it to plant hydrangeas wherever there is coarse dirt. So that's the first level, and then I'm going to grab the 2 water buckets. Let's just do this. I'm going to want them both handy. One there, obviously. So there's our infinite water supply, and then I'm just going to fill these both back up for the next level. And I'm just going to cover that up with some living wood bricks. And above that, I'm going to place some more of these living wood planks. Oh, actually that's fine. We'll break the corners out because that's where the flowers are going to go. And then I'm also going to break this out. We don't really need that there. Okay, and then the coarse dirt. Oh, actually we should have kept one of those there. The coarse dirt's going to go there. Again, because we want it to be at this, we want the flower to be planted on top of this at the same level as the water. Okay, so then I'm going to break out all these blocks. I mean, I guess we could have blocks in there, but I'm just going to break them out because we don't really need them. So our first 2 levels are done. And I'm going to be doing 4 levels altogether. So each tower is going to hold 16 rain and carpuses. So there's going to be 4 levels that each have 4 flowers. Okay, so that's the idea. I'm going to do that 2 more times in this tower, and then I'm going to build another tower right next to it. I'm going to have 3 blocks in between them. So the next one's going to end up being right there. Yeah, 3 blocks in the middle. There's our beautiful towers. Yeah, the dirt kind of makes it a little bit ugly. And of course you can put something, I mean, we could do something to kind of hide that a little bit or whatever if we wanted to add to the structure, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I just want to get this working. We can always worry later about making it look a little bit nicer. So we've got 16 pieces of coarse dirt. One of them, well, 8 of them are hidden underground. We don't really need to see them, so that's okay. I mean, we can dig these out if we want to. If we want to be able to see what's going on down there, that's fine, whatever. So this is where all of our flowers are going to be. We've got 4 levels, and it's 7 blocks from the bottom coarse dirt to the top coarse dirt. So the middle of that would be right about here. And that is where I want to put our elven mana spreaders. And I did test this in creative just to make sure that if I place the mana spreader right there, all of the hydrangeas will be able to reach the mana spreader. So I'm going to place 2 mana spreaders, and then I'm going to have a mana pool right around here somewhere. That's a good spot. And in bind mode, I'm going to shift right click both of these so that they're both going into that mana pool. So we're going to have a Gaia mana spreader right here. That's going to be spreading mana. It's going to be sending mana into our house up here. We're going to be placing another mana pool up here with a spark that's going to be recessive. And it's going to have to be right there. That way it's close enough to all of our things, and we can check that by placing a spark on it and then right-clicking on the spark, and we should see a beam going to every one of these. I'm not going to put the augment in that spark yet, just so that we can see what we're producing in the beginning. And then this guy, I'm going to shift right-click, and I'm going to send it all the way up to this guy. And it's not going to go through this wall, so that's why we need the phantom mana lens. So we right click on it, and then we will see that that beam is now going through the wall. Everything's going to collect in this mana pool from the Hydroangeas, and then this mana spreader is going to send it into our main mana network, but not all of it. We're also going to have a diluted mana pool that's going to be set up. I'm going to kind of set this back a little bit, because here's the thing. We want to make sure that there are no other mana spreaders that are closer to the Hydroangeas than these. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. So that one's 4 blocks away, 1, 2, 3. So that should be safe. So this mana pool, I'm actually going to set it back to about here. We can use that for our pulse mana spreader, which is going to be pointing at our Drum of the Wild over there. Okay, so then that is actually going to end up pointing in that direction. And it's a pulse mana spreader, which means that it will only do mana bursts when it gets a redstone pulse. So then we're going to take our final piece of coarse dirt, and we're going to grab our rain and carpus. And right about in the middle here, I'm going to put the coarse dirt down there. So that's coarse dirt. I'm going to put the rain and carpus up here. So this is... Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Okay, so just placed those pieces of dirt. So this tells the rain and carpus to look under the block that it's on to see what block that is, and it's coarse dirt. And that tells the rain and carpus, hey, we're going to place stuff on coarse dirt. In fact, if we look, if we hover over it with our wand of the forest, we can see that it says coarse dirt. So as you can see, there were 2 pieces of dirt sitting there. Picked those up and it placed them on top of coarse dirt. So now we're going to get into some of the fun stuff. So behind the rain and carpus, we're going to place this petal apothecary. Actually, you know what? Let's put our Drum of the Wild over there right away too. I'll place it on top of the rain and carpus. And then this guy is going to be pointing at the Drum of the Wild. We could probably put a messenger lens in here so that it uses less mana per burst. That might not be a bad idea. Above our petal apothecary, we are going to place one of our open crates. And we are going to have 3 hoppers going into the open crates. And then into those hoppers, we're going to have our droppers, all pointing into the hoppers. These droppers are where we're going to be holding the ingredients that are basically going to be our crafting ingredients for our hydrangeas. So dropper, dropper, dropper. 2 of these are going to be holding mystical cyan petals, so we could do that and that. 2 of them are going to be holding mystical blue flowers, or blue petals. One of them is going to be holding seeds, and then one of them is going to have a water bucket in it. We're going to set up automation for that. And then we're going to put a few blocks over here, and we're going to run some redstone across the top. And we're going to have our hourglass right there. And then we're going to run redstone over there in order to pulse our Drum of the Wild. Okay, so now it's time to set up the water automation. So I guess the first thing I'll do is I will take one of the item frames. Let's put it on this one. I'm just going to move things around here a little bit. Just so that it's closer to our water setup. I'm going to put a water bucket in there, and then I'm going to place a hopper hock next to it. Now you could do a floating hopper hock here if you don't want to have this ugly piece of dirt sitting there. That might not be such a bad idea. In fact, I might do that. But basically this will pick up any water buckets that get tossed in the area, and it'll put them in here. So then back here, we're going to have our water filling automation. So we're going to need a dispenser. So now what we're going to do here is something very similar to something we did a long time ago over here with, whoops, with our Petal Apothecary setup, which is basically what's causing our Petal Apothecary to refill whenever it runs out of water. So it drops a water bucket in there, and then that water bucket gets emptied, and then it gets picked up down here. Place a dispenser there, and on that dispenser right there, I'm going to put our item frame, our other item frame. And this item frame is going to have a bucket in it, and the other hopper hock. So that when a bucket gets dropped in the world, so when our Petal Apothecary empties the bucket that gets dropped into it, it'll be an empty bucket. This guy's going to pick it up, and at that point, we're going to take our redstone comparator, which, when the dispenser has a single empty bucket in it, is going to output a redstone signal of 1. So then we're going to take that redstone signal of 1, and we're going to put it into a repeater. And we're going to bring it back around into the dispenser. However, we do have to put a block on top of the dispenser. Let's just put that block there. And we'll see why in a bit. I'm going to do kind of a wide thing here because we're going to need to get under this now. So basically what's going to happen is as soon as a bucket goes in there, an empty bucket, actually I can throw this bucket in the world. We'll see what happens. Gets picked up, and then we heard that our dispenser triggered, and it now has a full water bucket in the dispenser, which now means that this thing is outputting a redstone signal of 2. We're going to use that redstone signal as well. So I'm going to place another bit of redstone here. So when we have an empty bucket, the signal will only get this far. It will not reach the second block until we have a full bucket of water. We're going to bring that signal around, and underneath our how far can I go here? Okay. So underneath our dispenser, we're going to have a hopper going into an open crate. However, we're going to have a redstone torch under it because we don't want it to pull stuff until it's ready to. So I'm putting a redstone torch there. I'm going to have to break this stuff for now. We're going to put an open crate there, and we're going to put the hopper there. So as soon as this redstone signal turns off, this hopper will pull whatever's in the dispenser out and put it in this open crate, causing it to drop into the world, allowing other hopper hawks, like maybe this one, to pick them up. So then this redstone signal, we're going to put a repeater on this. No! Oh, you... Oh my god. Oh, I'm so glad I got away from that fast enough. Whew. That scared me. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to grab our last redstone repeater. So we're almost done. You can see our shulker box is almost empty. So that when we have a water bucket in there, this thing is going to output a redstone signal, and we're going to bring that redstone signal. So this block right here has the redstone torch on it. That is right under that. So that's this block right here. So we're going to have to bring our redstone in, pointing into that block. So we're going to have to go like this. Okay, so that should turn this torch off when this has a redstone signal of 2. Okay, now the reason we put a block up here instead of having the redstone go right to the dispenser is because when the dispenser gets the redstone signal, it'll turn off the hopper, and we won't be able to turn it on. One more thing, we need to give this thing a delay. Otherwise, the bucket gets stuck in the hopper because it doesn't have enough time to get it into the open crate. So I drop a bucket in the world. Gets picked up, filled with water, dropped in the world. Oh, and there it is. Hooray! Did you see that? So it ended up in here. Nice. So let's just do that one more time so we can see what's going on again. So what's really going to happen now is the bucket's going to get dropped over here. It's going to be a full bucket of water. When it gets dropped on top of the petal of apothecary, it will become an empty bucket, which will then get picked up, placed in there, and then drop down there. You know what? Oh, there it goes. So it got dropped down there and it got picked up almost immediately, so we didn't even get to see it. And there we go. So this is working. We don't actually need the redstone to come out quite this far. We can do that. And we can cover this up if we want to. So we're ready to go. Now all we have to do is put some sand in this thing. Now the hydrangeas last for an hour. So the way I have this set up, now I guess there's two ways that you could have this set up. There's a more complicated way and there's a simpler way. I'm going with a simpler approach here. What we could do, the more complicated approach, would be to have the hovering hourglass pulse once an hour and then have that trigger some other pulsing that happens like every 30 seconds or so. Exactly 32 times because we have 32 spots for hydroangeas. That would take up a whole lot of space, and I just didn't want to do it that way. So what we're going to do instead is, because we have 32 places for hydroangeas, we're basically going to divide 1 hour by 32. Which will give us 112.5 seconds, or 1 minute and 52.5 seconds, which we're going to round up to 120 seconds. So we're going to have this thing pulse every 120 seconds, which is going to cause a single hydroangea to be planted. So it's going to take almost an hour before we have a full setup of hydroangeas. And then from that point forward, every 120 seconds, one of the hydrangeas is going to die, and then another one will be created, and another one will be born. Yeah. So when you put sand in the hovering hourglass, it's 1 second. Red sand is 10 seconds. Soul sand is 1 minute. So we could just do 2 soul sand. I'm going to actually do 12 red sand because that's going to give us a little bit more flexibility. Ready to go. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to just put a single piece of red sand in there just so that we can see it in action without having to wait. So in 10 seconds, we should make our first hydroangea. And we're also going to hit the drum in the wild, too. Oh, no, we won't because there's not. Okay, you can see it's dropping all the stuff in there, and it made the hydroangea. The hydroangea should have gotten picked up. Come, it looked like there was an extra. Oh, crap. No, I just did another one. All right, let me take this out. It's hard to see what's going on in there. Okay, so the bucket got picked up and put back in there. So we can see we have our water bucket in there still. One of the hydrangeas got planted over here, and it should be linked to that mana pool. That mana spreader right there. Oh, by the way, these raining carpuses have a fairly short range of picking stuff up, so you don't have to worry about like dropping something over here and having it pick it up. Okay, I can't find the other one. Oh, there it is. There it is. It's way up here. Okay. And that one is bound to that one. Hooray! I also made a messenger lens. I'm going to put that on here, which is basically going to make it take less mana. Hydrangeas, they do produce about the same amount of mana as the endoflames do. By the way, these hopper hawks are not getting mana. They're too far from the mana pool. Or it may be that it's because I moved the mana pool. When the hopper hawks don't have mana, they still work. They just have a smaller range. And in this case, that range is big enough. About an hour has gone by, and we are totally full. We have hydrangeas in every slot, and we've got 32 of them. And as you can see, we're producing quite a bit of mana here. You can see all the mana bursts, and these are elven mana spreaders, and this is a Gaia mana spreader, which means that each burst has a whole lot of mana in it. And if we look in our... Oops. If we look in our mana pool up here, we'll see that we are over half full already. Wow. And we're actually producing just as much mana with this setup that we are with this, or almost just as much. This one I think has like 36 maybe endoflames, and one of them has a enchanted soil under it, so it's producing just a little bit more. And of course that one is requiring this tree farm to keep it running because it's making charcoal out of wood in all these furnaces over here. So I think that's a pretty good deal. This is producing a really nice amount of mana for us. Now, I did make a few changes to the setup that I'm going to show you in a second. But before we do that, I made our mana battery a little bigger. I just added 3 mana pools over here. And add our recessive spark to this one so that this mana pool will start feeding our mana battery. We should start to see some stuff floating over there. Actually, oh no, we're not going to because these are all full. Once we do this, we should start seeing some mana floating over there from over here. Nice. And this pool should be emptying out. Nice. Okay, so now all the mana from our Hydroangeas is now feeding our mana battery pretty quickly too. And of course, this is also feeding it. So we're going to end up getting about an equal amount. Every time we need mana, it's going to pull about an equal amount from each source. So let me show you what we've got. So this is the whole setup. I've made a few minor adjustments. So first of all, I added an endoflame here, and a single endoflame, which very rarely gets used. But above the endoflame, we've got a open crate with a hopper hock next to it and an item frame with a stick. Because when these Hydroangeas die, they leave us with a dead bush. And the dead bush, we don't have any at the moment, but we should get about 1 dead bush every 2 minutes, which is going to end up giving us sticks. And then it's going to just drop the sticks on this endoflame, and the endoflame is going to burn a small amount of mana with those sticks. So it's just something, instead of just leaving the sticks lay out there to despawn, we're doing something with the sticks, making a little bit of mana. You know, of course we could collect them, bring them into our system or whatever, but yeah, we'll just do it this way. Another change I made is I moved the Drum of the Wild up 1 block because it wasn't reaching back here. So right now the Drum of the Wild is actually right in the middle of the vertical, it's in the vertical center of between the bottom Hydroangea and the top Hydroangea, so that it can reach all of them. Another thing I changed, and I may adjust this, is that I now have 11 red sand in here, so that we're now doing 1 minute and 50 seconds, which basically means that we're producing a little bit more than 32 Hydroangeas per hour, just slightly more. So we're going to end up with one sitting down here every once in a while until the next one breaks. Ideally, we would want to go 1 minute and 52.5 seconds, but that's not really an option. We can do 1 minute and 50 seconds, or we can do 2 minutes. So we're either going to have a little bit too much or not quite enough. Either way, it's not really a big deal. If we wanted to like totally fine tune this thing so that it's perfectly like unwasteful and creating just as much, we can actually give this guy a redstone pulse to turn it on and off. So theoretically, we could have it set up so that it gets a redstone pulse that turns it off for like a few seconds every time it pulses. One more change. I added a mana splitter between these 2 mana pools. Instead of having the 2 mana spreaders, just because I couldn't always predict where the mana was going to go, and sometimes this diluted mana pool would start to empty out. So with the mana splitter, it's going to evenly split the mana between the pools that it's connected to. Of course, once this one's full, then it's just going to end up putting all the mana in here, which is going to be the case most of the time. By the way, the Raining Carpus will place the Hydroangea in place of a dead bush. So we don't really have to do this thing with the Drum of the Wild. So the only real benefit of doing it is so that we can get the sticks for our endoflame, and it keeps things nice and clean for us. So one enhancement you can do with this to make it fully automated, because right now what we're doing is we're just stocking this thing up with petals, which will keep it going for quite a while. However, if we wanted to link that setup with this setup over here, where we have our Jaded Amaranthus automation setup, where we're automatically picking our flowers and putting them in this chest, we could have a setup like this over there and have it throw all of the blue and cyan flowers into this hopper hock. Into this dropper, or into these droppers. Then we would just need to have seed automation, and we could probably do something like that with, you know, either a pumpkin farm or a wheat farm or any kind of Minecraft farm that will allow us to produce seeds to fill up this dropper. And then our setup would be fully automated and we would never have to touch it again. All done. And it's working beautifully, and it's producing a ton of freaking mana. In fact, I might make our mana battery even bigger because that filled up pretty quickly. So if you do have any questions about this setup, please let me know. And in the next episode, we're going to look at another way of generating mana, and we're going to start generating all kinds of freaking mana around here. So I do hope you join me for that. Of course, if you do have any questions, comments, ideas, or whatever, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this, don't forget to click the like button and join me next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.